Hello, this afternoon I'm going to show you how I extended the mud flaps on the rear wheels of my four-wheel drive. There's quite a lot of enjoyment in doing these sorts of jobs, I find. One, because it makes our life on the road easier, and I think it's important to make life on the road as easy as possible, so it's not a whole lot of hard chores to do, but rather something that's really enjoyable. Secondly, it's enjoyable for me because I'm not a person who's very technically competent. I don't have a lot of natural aptitude for technical things, so when these things work, there's quite a bit of enjoyment to be gained from doing something that works quite well. One of the other things that makes it enjoyable is because having realised that there was a problem, was seeking out the solution, and this solution came from searching on YouTube. There were quite a variety of ways to do this, but I've chosen this particular one because I think it suits us the best, and by talking to a good friend who's very technically competent at these sorts of things. So here's my solution, and I hope at the end of the day it all works out for us. On my previous four-wheel drive, the debris that came up from the rear wheels rarely hit the camper trailer. But on the new four-wheel drive, there's a lot of debris that comes up from the rear wheels and hits the trailer. And I think that's because of two reasons. One, my previous four-wheel drive was a tub and canopy, and so there was a lot more of the area that was covered in by the bodywork of the tub. And also on the previous vehicle, the wheels, the axle, the rear axle was further towards the rear of the vehicle, rather than on this vehicle, the rear axle is further towards the chassis. So I think there's a lot more room for spray to come from the rear wheels. Anyway, one of the ways I'm going to try and overcome this is to extend the mud flap. And in this video, I'm going to show you how I've done that. But first of all, I'll just show you the mud flaps themselves and the situation of the axle, the wheels, and the canopy and the rear of the vehicle. So you can see here that from the rear wheel to the end of the vehicle, the end of the canopy, there's nothing to stop debris flying up. So that's the problem that I'm going to try and overcome. I'll show you that from the back of the vehicle as well. What's prompted all this is that on a recent trip to the Gawler Ranges, I noticed that there was a lot of mud on the front of our camper trailer, and as I said in previous trips with the previous vehicle, that hadn't happened, hence the need to do something about it. Now I know there are a variety of solutions to this, but I'm trying to come up with the most simple solution to it, and a solution that doesn't mean I have to do extra things each time we're away. So what I'm going to do is use the neoprene, some spring washers and some wing nuts to replace my current mud flaps with the new mud flaps, which will be longer, and we'll see how we go. So that's the plan. So the first thing I'm going to do is just undo these three nuts and bolts, take the current mud flap off, and I'm going to use the current mud flap to help me cut the new mud flap and also to locate the hole. So I'm going to use it as a bit of a template, and I intend to have the mud flap about 10 centimetres clear of the ground. Hopefully that will stop most of the debris flying out towards the camper trailer. I've bought from Clark Rubber some neoprene. It's the black laying on the table there underneath the tape measure and the other measuring tools, and also underneath the current mud flap that I have. And I bought that, as I said, from Clark Rubber. It's almost the exact dimension of the mud flap that comes with the vehicle. It's a little bit wider, you'll see, on one side, but I'm going to try and get away with that because I don't want to mess around and probably make an uneven edge. So I'm going to make the mud flap about 47 centimetres long. That might be a bit long, but I could always trim it off. One of the things is that the mud flap doesn't hang in a straight angle. There's a sort of a bend in it. So I want to be about 10 centimetres off the ground. So I figure if I cut it at 47, I can always trim it up once I've actually had it sitting on the vehicle for a while and it's taken up its natural position. So I'm going to measure 47 and cut it and drill it and put it onto the vehicle and see how we go. So having used the old mud flap as the template for both width and where to drill the holes, you can see that the holes are identical to the old mud flap with the new mud flap. It fits perfectly. It is a bit long at the moment, but that's also partly because the neoprene was rolled up, and so it has a natural curve in it. That will settle down, and I'll make a judgment about where to finally trim it off to best suit all the needs. One, not getting trapped, but two, stopping all the debris. There is one other thing that I'm going to show you, and that is this. You'll see the 3 nylocks with the Mudflap washer here. I was going to replace the nylocks with wing nuts because I thought it would be quicker to undo wing nuts than obviously get a spanner out and undo the nylocks. But the wing nuts have very fiddly little arms on them, so I think I'd need a spanner in the end anyway. But I have noticed this when I was fitting the Mudflaps, and that is that underneath the tray there are channels which have pre-drilled holes, and so I'm thinking of using chain and carabiners so that when I'm in a situation where I'm in mud or sand and I'm reversing and the Mudflap might get caught on the wheel and rip off, I'll simply be able to get out, lift the Mudflap via the chain and carabiner and attach it to those holes in the underbody of the tray. So that's something I'm giving some consideration to in the next few days. But for now, that's it. I'm pretty happy with the whole lot, and as I say, quite a lot of enjoyment out of doing it myself, and what I think is a very workable solution. Thanks for watching.